Hi, everybody. Michelle Villagomez from Engine. Really excited to be here today with Alice from Proper Brands, and really excited about today's conversation. Alice Moore from Proper Brands, Human Resources Director with that company, I'm so sorry, a fully vertically integrated cannabis company out of Missouri. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Human Resources Management, so a true vet in the space, bringing over a decade of experience in HR and operational leadership as well, including significant time spent in the casino industry before joining Proper Brands. She's been with the company for about 3.5 years now, fulfilling her aspiration of contributing to an industry focused on holistic wellness for both the public and employees as well. In her role, she leads a team of 3 HR professionals and has developed and implemented various policies aimed at enhancing employee well-being, which I know we're all super honed in on in the Canna HR space. So Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll kind of kick us off with saying, Proper Brands' values, authenticity, excellence, passion, connection, and community, they're all fundamental to its success. Um, how did you ensure these values stayed deeply rooted in your culture, especially during times of rapid growth, which we'll dive into in today's call?
Thanks, Michelle, and welcome everybody. Yeah, so our values, the 5 values that Michelle just mentioned, were agreed upon and set by our partners at the onset of the company before the company was operational. It's very important to um, set those values. And the way that we root those values in our company and our culture is really right at the onset. There's an initial values integration. They're embedded at every touch point in our employee life cycle, and that starts with the HR screening. So during our new hire orientation, we also embed those values. But before an employee even reaches new hire orientation, there's a question in our HR screening when they apply, asking, stating our values, the meaning of those values, and asking that potential new hire to pick a value and let us know how it most resonates with them. So we want to get those out there right at the beginning, just to ensure that they understand that those are very, very important to our company. And then during the onboarding process with new hire orientation, our CEO, our president, and our COO introduce those values, explain the meaning and the creation of them. And they just talk about how important they are to our business. Also, our directors come in right after our partners during our new hire orientations, and they have the opportunity to pick one of those values after they introduce themselves and their function and explain what that value means to them. So we really hone in on it right at the onset. And then after that, there's visibility. We have our values listed in every office in our facility, as well as all of our retail locations. Our values are posted for not only our internal employees, but also our guests that come into our retail locations. So we really try to live out those values, but that's how we root those in our culture, and we remind them of what they are. And then even further than that, we use those values in coaching conversations. We also embed those values in our performance reviews. So employees are well aware that we'd like to live those values throughout their life cycle.
That's amazing. And I think, especially when there's periods of really intense growth, it can sometimes get a little bit lost, but to be able to bring it in with every, change in management, large influxes of employees coming in, it's so important to have those values, and to not just live them, but make sure that other people know them and live them as well. So in that vein, you scaled Proper's HR department from 80 people to over 400 employees, and that was across the span of several acquisitions, which is, super impressive. What creative strategies did you use to build a scalable, sustainable HR infrastructure as these acquisitions were happening?
Yeah, so it has been quite the journey. And even including those acquisitions, I certainly didn't do it alone. I had a great team around me, even when I began as an army of one, when we did have 80 employees. I leaned on our leaders to help me with the recruitment process. But as we began to scale and grow, um, we started as with two dispensaries and the 80 employees. And then over the course of the next few years, we did enter into four acquisitions throughout. And so where we are now is 11 dispensaries. We have another lab, we have another transportation, and we have over 400 employees. So again, it wasn't just the acquisitions. Adult use in Missouri last year also happened. So it was just a really huge influx. And so one thing I'll say is being able to report directly to the CEO was integral for me because I was able to gain an insight as to what was coming down the pipeline so that we could create a plan to scale the HR team, not only the employees, the employees that we scaled, but I also found it very important as I learned these plans were coming down the pipeline that I needed to grow my HR team. So I started with, an HR assistant who helped me with those screenings and helped me get new employees in at a faster rate, not ignoring quality. And then eventually, as you grow your HR department, you have to realize what functions are important. So with that, I then grew the HR department to a generalist who could help me with more of those intimate conversations with employees because the more employees that you get, the more you realize that they have issues too, and you can't spread yourself too thin. I'm really thankful to have a company of partners who appreciate the value of human resources. I think a lot of times historically, human resources departments have been spread really thin. And it's really, really important to have multiple skilled professionals in that department that can help reach out with these employees. So after that happened, I realized that I did still need another HR professional on our team. So we did hire an HR coordinator to help with some of the administrative work on the back end with benefits, payroll, things like that. This not only helped keep our business running, but it also allowed me to step out of the day to day and into a more strategic role. So I really, really appreciate my team. And again, I appreciate the importance from our partners of realizing that HR really is important, especially in a really fast moving industry. So that's kind of how my story for my department.
Yeah, and I think especially in cannabis HR, there's that story of, I wish the higher ups saw the plight and understood it and were able to put the resources behind it so that we could really grow the department. And more often than not, we see people navigating this on their own and navigating several markets at once. It can definitely be a lot. To have the support genuinely makes a world of difference, especially, moving, like you said, as quickly as we are in the space, for sure. So as the company grew, how did you balance hiring speed with maintaining the quality of candidates, ensuring they aligned with, those proper core values? And maybe, what were the biggest challenges in recruitment and onboarding during those phases of, serious, fast-paced growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, one of the biggest things, as the company began to grow, was really, really adapting and prioritizing and focusing on continuous improvement. You have to be able to move at the speed that your company is moving. So, you can't ignore quality, but you do have to move a little fast. When adult use hit, it was a big jump in recruitment. People loved cannabis, wanted to get into the space. So you have to make sure you maintain the quality, but also you're moving at the speed of light sometimes. So back to your original question, keeping those values in mind with everything that we do really set the tone for how we began to recruit. So another thing that's really important as HR professionals is to make sure that your HR tech is up to speed and working for you. So if you're doing paper applications and you're making several phone calls, that's not sustainable. So, as everybody knows, it's 2024, we're moving into the world of the tech space, and that applies to HR as well. So you want to make sure you have a strong HRIS system with an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system that is comprehensive, and ask as many questions as you can at implementation to make sure that the ATS inside of your HRIS fits the needs of your business. That was integral. We also partner with great companies like Flower Hire to help us with some really, really key roles, so that we could continue moving forward in a productive direction. I would say our biggest challenge was probably balancing that urgency with quality. It's a constant challenge, you can overcome that with getting your leaders aligned with the recruitment process, communicate, and also emphasizing the need to delegate to elevate. So if you have a store manager in retail, they really shouldn't be the only ones doing those on-site interviews. They really need to get their assistant managers involved, or their leads, or however you structure your retail department with leaders, but really being able to teach the people that are coming up after you, um, in order to help you with the process. The other thing is really a comprehensive onboarding. So our orientation program was designed not just to inspire, with the directors engaging, they were also designed to inform. So you get all of the information that employees need to know. You talk about the handbook, and you get all that wrapped up in their first day, and share that with them so that they can refer to it whenever they need to. But getting all that done, I would say the most important thing is that HRIS system, your process and process improvement, continuously improving your recruitment processes, because as you move faster, the thing that you were doing a month ago might not be sustainable a month later. So you have to always be thinking about ways to improve your processes.
100%. And I think a lot of us out there align with the delegate to elevate line. I almost feel like that could be a Canna HR slogan to really drive home as we go
Definitely.
2025, and teams, just continue to grow bigger. So that I love specifically. You've implemented initiatives to foster employee growth, and that's something you're a vet at and tried and true. Could you highlight a few key programs that you establish, and how you navigated promoting internal talent while accepting that some employees will inevitably move on, even with all of the amazing initiatives that as a team we can put together and help the team adopt?
Yeah, I mean, this is a part of my role that really, really was exciting and fulfilling. Again, the support from the leaders and the partners and the CEO that I report to was crucial in this, and it really helps to build the culture. So not only are you hiring rapidly, you're focusing on quality, but then you're also fostering uh, a world where you're developing employees and you're helping them get to where they want to be. Um, we created 3 years ago an internship program, which is really near and dear to my heart. We went out to universities that would have us, and we created a program where it was designed to give young professionals a really immersive experience into our business. And so its success is evident. We have several interns that over the course of 3 years have taken on actual full-time roles with our company. And actually, my first hire into my HR department was a first-year intern. And so she's actually on my team, but we also have people in cultivation, we have people in the lab, who have started as interns that during our internship, they travel from department to department. They learn everything from seed to sale. And we try to go in order, and they just get exposure on every aspect of our business. They do a presentation at the end where they talk about their experience in every department. And even the interns that don't go on to work with us, we try to keep in touch with them, and they've all reported that, the experience itself was really eye-opening. They were actually able to influence people in their personal lives about the power of cannabis. So it really is one of my proudest accomplishments with Proper. The other thing that we do, another program that we are developing and implementing, is a leadership development program where we created modules, live modules that leaders can tune into. And it's very interactive. We're really explaining all of our policies, all of our processes, and we invite, it's not only directors, but managers, assistant managers, our leads, just so that they can be developed and we have a unified voice on how Proper does things. And it shapes and molds our younger leaders into future roles. We also are in the process of developing a solid employee recognition program, which is really important. In lieu of giving everyone, constant raises and promotions, you want to make sure that you're recognizing your employees on a regular basis for the hard work and their contributions to the company. So that's soon to come in 2025, but we're definitely always focused on different programs that we can offer to our employees to help them grow and develop. The other thing that we're working on in 2025 is something of a proper university where we are going to cross train. So, you know, you have people that feel like they're that island mentality where we have a grow facility, they feel separate from retail. So what we're thinking about doing next year is really creating a rotational program where, if you're a trimmer packager, maybe for a week or two, you can cross over to retail. The crossover is important because we've had people from our facility move over to retail, and it creates a bridge where they can actually explain our products and our processes from our facility in way more depth. It helps our customers get a better understanding, but it also helps the retail employees around them or the employees around them, understand the other aspects of our business and that we all are working for one unified goal. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. Especially nowadays, I think it can feel like we're in silos, especially as as more markets open up. There certainly can be a feeling of separation. So to be able to have cross training in that way for employees ultimately fosters so much cohesion and a feeling of belonging to a community
for
above
sure.
all else, that's amazing. A quick tangent because this question had me really excited. What kind of support did you get from from other people in the company in order to get the buy-in that that led to wider implementation of these programs?
Oh man, so I mean, it really is a group effort. With the internship, before we launch it, we definitely sit down with not only leaders in the different departments that the interns travel through, we also sit down with employees who are actually doing the jobs in the business, and we create some sort of a mentor ship where these people come in and we meet with them several weeks before the intern starts. We develop the program for the interns. So getting that buy-in means involving people who are actually doing it. A lot of times we can sit on the outside and say, this is what I think is best for the business, but a way to really embed programs and get the best value out of them is to include the actual employees that will be interacting. So that I think is really important. It gives them the sense of pride and accomplishment once the interns run through the cycle. So getting all of them involved, we couldn't do it without them. Um, as far as the leadership development module, me and my team do a pretty good job along the way. It was easy for me to create these modules because, we had been piecemeal in this information. And then we realized, okay, we need to get all of this in one, get everybody together and really have that one unified voice. So really, for any of these programs, the most important thing to get the buy-in is to actually involve the people. Involve your employees from your frontline employees and your managers. Involve them in the process, and then you'll get that buy-in.
That's amazing for sure. Ooh, I opened up a secondary window. Apologies. Um, and this is something that I think so many of us have dealt with in our, in our own fields and in our own lanes, if we will. And that's stigma around HR. And really, I think what we've seen a lot of is just not having that buy-in, that support from other departments, from higher ups, to be able to, move the needle and push some really important initiatives through. I know you specifically are super passionate about changing that stigma, and so many of us are. What specific steps have you taken at Proper to shift perceptions? And what advice would you give to HR leaders who want to reimagine their roles and the way they interact, with the rest of their teams in this way?
Yeah, for sure. And I think any HR professional would agree that there is a stigma about HR professionals in any industry. And it's extremely difficult to change that mindset, whether people have had bad experiences with HR or just, you know, the opinion of HR. But, you know, we're human beings too. And we're actually the engine behind uh, the whole business. Like we're turning the wheels in the background, but we're also involved on a daily basis with employees and leaders. So it was really important to reposition my role as an army of one in the weeds to a more strategic partner by growing my HR department, as I mentioned earlier. That's important. It's important to have a seat at the table, to really sit down with these leaders and be involved in discussions that can move the business in, you know, financially and also culturally. So that was really important. Another thing that I'm really proud of is Another thing I'm really proud of is in Missouri, you know, I went to my CEO and I was like, hey, you know, I know you're connected with these other Missouri cannabis companies. I really like to connect with their HR professionals and form a group. So what we did was we have a MoCan Trade Association in Missouri. It's kind of the backbone of the cannabis industry here in Missouri. They've helped to implement policy around it and actually implement, you know, help to push adult use forward last year. So within that group, there are subgroups. So we ran it through that organization, and they were able to reach out to all of the HR professionals. And I'm really proud to say that we were able to come together. We came together in person this summer, and then we created sort of an HR hive. So it's several professionals in cannabis across the state of Missouri who meet on a monthly basis. And really, it's a huge support group. So we're talking about policies, we're talking about employees, we're talking about best practices. It really is a group where we can support one another and vent and share ideas. It not only strengthened my knowledge base, but others' knowledge base, and it just fostered collaboration in HR across the industry. So I'm really, really proud of that. Another thing is our New Growth Horizon Charitable Foundation, which is our 501(c)(3) arm here at Proper, and we support several initiatives throughout our community, both monetarily and through volunteering. So this creates a sense of community both internally and externally, and it gives us a chance to really contribute to organizations that, you know, we are passionate about. Such as like the Last Prisoner Project. We have a veterans community project here in Missouri that we volunteer with, and also a homeless shelter that we frequently volunteer. I think we had a couple of employees last night actually volunteer, which is a homeless shelter where we serve food. So for me and my HR team to get involved in things like that, and we also have an executive director of that charitable foundation who's really working hard to make sure that we are of service to not only our internal employees, but the community as a whole. So yeah, that really is those are really a couple of things that we really have done to move the needle and try to shift perspectives. And you know, just a final note, advice that I would give to HR professionals that are navigating rapid growth, and even the ones who are not navigating rapid growth, maybe you have a smaller company. I think you need to remember to pause and take a deep breath and know that you don't have to do all of this on your own. Really reach out to your leaders and get them involved, even if you don't have an HR team. Another thing that's important is that, you know, you can only put one foot in front of the other. So, take the time to know that and don't get overwhelmed. And really let go of the phrase, we've always done it this way. Because if you're in a startup, as we all in cannabis are, you know, it's going to move really fast. And you can't get stuck in the old ways, even if it's from a couple months to a couple months. You have to have an open mind and be able to adapt and adjust. And then you have to be able to convince the leaders in around you to do the same thing. Um, so even when some processes seem effective, it really is helpful to adopt a mindset of continuous improvement, because really staying proactive really ensures that you're not just keeping up, but you're staying ahead. And above all else, I would want everybody to just keep in mind that even the most seasoned HR professionals are in uncharted territory here in the cannabis industry. So you really should be mindful of that and give yourself some grace in your most stressful moments.
For sure. I like to say that you can teach so many things about navigating the cannabis space, and that's, across different sectors, different roles. But the ability to adapt, the willingness to be nimble, even when things change around you, feels like daily. It's important, and that's hard to teach. Some of us have been in this for such a long time, that's all we know, but it's so helpful to constantly be willing to adapt. It's super important. Well, I do want to leave some room for everybody that's joined us today to bring us any of their questions, their insights. I do see some questions in the Q&A right now, so I'll take the first one. What guidance do you have for those of us struggling to find balance between purpose-driven goals, so DEI, sustainability, social impact, and the need for profit-driven goals?
That is a great question. I think that there's a world where both of those can live together. So, as HR professionals, I think it's also important to understand that even though we are responsible for maintaining the culture, we're not responsible for creating the culture. That responsibility lies with your leaders, it lies with your C-suite, it lies with your higher ups. So, the biggest thing for my team and myself is to make sure that it's important for these leaders to understand that profitability comes from a good culture. So if you've got happy employees, those employees are going to push out great product. And those happy employees are also going to be in front of your customers, and they are going to drive revenue from that. If you have happy employees, they're going to be happy and passionate about the product, they're going to sell, and you're going to be profitable. So being able to influence your leaders to understand and support the fact that culture is so very, very important, and it's not just a one team responsibility, embedding that into performance reviews, I think one of the biggest things is doing an engagement survey. So we do engagement surveys wrapped around our culture and employee satisfaction. And that's extremely important because when we do that, we learn what the needs of our employees are. And again, it goes back to if you can satisfy your employees, those employees are going to make your business more profitable.
For sure. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Could you share an example of a strategy or a task that you're handling? This person says, I would like to know how we can show leaders how our work is strategic.
I think that giving them visibility and empowering them when you are creating a process. So showing them that your work is strategic. I think I can remember a time where, you have a leader coming to you saying, I want to give my employees a raise. I want to give them a raise. I want to give them a raise, helping them understand that going to the decision makers and saying I just want to give them a raise is not going to move the needle. What can move the needle and what gives them visibility on what our role is thinking about it in steps strategically, right? So maybe we calculate, what we did is we calculated the cost of turnover for one of our lowest paying departments. We went across a whole year and we calculated how much it took to how much does it cost when you incur turnover? And we looked at that. So what I would say is data, giving leaders visibility to data that we may be used to seeing it on a daily basis, and partnering with them to present their argument or their need for support to the decision makers shows value in your role, and it also empowers the leaders to use a little bit more data to influence.
That's a great answer. And yes, I think especially as we continue to grow, data just becomes more and more important in really every aspect of the business for sure. This next question comes from Jason Brightfeller. What has been your observation on the maturity level of the leadership and soft skills of leaders in the cannabis industry specifically?
I would say it varies. You know, you have people in the can with it being such a new industry, there's people coming from all aspects. Like you have people coming from the manufacturing industry, you have people coming from corporate roles. The skill level varies. I think that what we are charged to do in human resources is really try to develop those skills. For proper specifically, you could look at our leaders and really, once you have a conversation with them or you watch them at work, you can tell about, that there's something about them that brings them to the industry and you know that they belong. On the back end, there are technical things that are teachable, right? But that leadership element to me really lives in that person once they get into the role, or you can develop it, as a frontline team member. So I think that the skill level varies. You don't always. I'm a fan of hiring for potential a lot of times, and maybe not the skill that already is there. As I spoke before, my very first hire in my department was a recent graduate, and now she's an HR professional. She did not have an HR degree, but she graduated from college and is a great first face to our employees. And we're developing her as a team into a great HR professional. So people are not always going to be hot and ready, but it's our responsibility to build them up.
Most definitely. And I do want us to be mindful of time, but we've got one more question, and I think it's a good one.
Okay.
How do you monitor your employee brand? And there's a second part to it, so maybe I'll let you tackle that first, and then I'll throw in the second part.
So monitoring our employee brand, there's different aspects of that. You have marketing and they do a great job, with branding. But if you're talking about our brand internally, like how we look to other employees, is really making sure that we are advertising our benefits. We are making sure that our employees are really promoting our business in a way that is exciting. We have a great referral program. We have really good results from employees who are referred to us. So we offer our internal employees, a bonus so that they can refer employees. So they're building our brand from that way, and just really attending events, reaching out to the community. I think that's a good way to promote the brand from a employee perspective.
For sure. And second parter to this is, do the mentorship programs and involvement of employees and, many HR initiatives, does that have an influence on your employer brand, would you
Oh,
say?
absolutely. Absolutely. There are folks that have become mentors in our internship program who have a better sense of community within our organization. Without being promoted or anything like that, just bringing them into that definitely helps them go out and say, here's what I'm doing at Proper, here's what's going on. And then when you screen candidates and you ask them why they're interested in Proper, and they say, oh, well, my friend was an intern, or my friend applied for the internship and they had nothing but great things to say about it. It just really lets us know that we're on the right track for the most part with our brand.
Most definitely, for sure. Well, Alice, always insightful to have conversation with you. So thank you so, so much for joining today's webinar. And folks, thank you so much for joining